Hello members, welcome to our early preview for Guineas Day in Melbourne and Sydney, heading on to the 7th of March. We'll just run through Randwick to start with, and then we'll get on to Flemington. I just have to update a few jockeys and whatnot in the morning, and I'll provide also an updated rating sheet when I send out this video, yeah, we'll get into it. So I'll just make this a bit bigger for you. Hopefully, let's get in there. That's a bit better. So just with the 2-year-old races, members, I haven't really done them yet. They're pretty difficult, but I think that English is too short. I'd be happy to oppose that horse tomorrow. I think that it's a bit of a spruik, and I think $2.80 is sort of short enough. So if it continues to tighten up, could be worthy of a layout, I think. But the problem with the race is there isn't a great deal of talent elsewhere. So I don't think it's as good as everyone thinks, but it's not really anything else that's very good in the race. On to the second of the 2-year-old races, and it's much the same. Just a horrible race. So we'll just get into the decent races. Look, we sent out some alerts on Wednesday when we put our markets up, basically highlighting Brook Road and Mahiri as bets. Brook Road's been $8 into about 4, or $8.50 to 4, so that's been well backed. Could possibly get it a little bit shorter, but I have to work on that tomorrow morning. It resumes, goes quite well, has a really good turn of foot, and Mahiri's coming through a pretty good race behind Catkins, and it certainly looks to be pretty well placed also. I think that it's the rock hard fit horse that's been racing quite well, and it's quite difficult to not see that horse being right in the finish around the mark with that tough fitness and good turn of foot, it should get a pretty good run, I think. So I think Mahiri's the one to beat. As I mentioned earlier, we've chipped away the value for Brook Road. It's in now. The other one that's come in that we alerted also as a value runner was My Seville. So it's a pretty good horse on its day, and it can put out a pretty good run. So I think that they're the three, we'll just sort of see how the rest go. I think that My Seville back to the 1200 is a pretty big plus for it, and just sort of didn't run out to 1400 last time off a strong tempo. On to the next race, and Pajaro's been heavily backed. We first alerted at $10. There was in the teens and 19s available. So there's been some scratching since then. So it's come in a little bit from scratchings, plus just for its class to meet its speed figure, I'll give it a length, and it sort of gets it to about $5, which is about where it is at the moment. Look, it went really well first up, and then obviously was backed off the map second up, and didn't look to do much. But certainly on that first run, it looks a huge chance. And if we even just go back to last campaign, third up at Rose Hill, won by 2.8 lengths, ran to a speed figure of 125, and if it sort of follows that pattern, it's going to be very hard to beat. So it looks clearly a hard horse to beat. Grand Marshal is the other one. It was heavily backed last start into around $4 or something like that, $5, and they went up $13 for this horse. It's also come in a little bit, so just look to adjust your bets. And they looked at the two. I think Maygrove has a debut in Australia, and the word is the horse is going quite well. And Self Sense won quite well in the Kilmore Cup. He ran around 10 lengths above the average for Kilmore, which is certainly a pretty good effort. But he's going to need to find a little bit again, I think, here. And I think Graham Marshall's the one that could be the big improver. So I think that Pajaro and Graham Marshall are the ones to beat here. They're the horses with the big speed figures on the minimum, and Self Sense is sort of the next best. And Maygrove, we probably can't let that go without us. We're going to have something on it. On the race 3, and here we have pretty good race for the mares. Look, if we sort of look at the class figures, a lot of these are pretty ordinary. We look up the top, we've got a couple of good ones in Solicit and Dane Siri, and they back up from last week. Solicit had a pretty hard run. She's going to have to back up, but she's got a lot of class. And I thought her run last week was pretty good. And Dane Siri's just going really, really well. And the other one that rates up pretty well is Marty. It's sort of working through the grades well. I had a good look if it can get the trip. I think it can. It had a good run at 1400 a couple of starts back, and gives me a bit of confidence. Telepathic, look, it's going well. It really has to take the next step here. Certainly, it's got a lot of potential. And I sort of can't dispute that, but at the same time, I couldn't back the horse at $3.50. So we'll just have to sort of see what happens with that one. On to the guineas, and look, I've got Shooting the Win on top here. I think he'll improve big time getting out to a mile, and I think he'll improve big time second up. And I think he'll improve big time on a firm track. So I think he's the way to go. Hello Brown. He had one run on a hard track and didn't do too good, but we're sort of splitting hairs here. It's a pretty difficult race, and there's not a lot of meat on the bone for us with a lot of them. But this Sworn to Silence has come up good value for us. As you can see there, it's way down on the class figures, which is pretty much represented by its market price, but it does have a high speed rating, and generally these horses run quite well for us, and Purton's on. So look, we probably aren't going to be able to back too many horses in this race, but I think that it could be a good race for us if we can get on a horse like Shooting to Win and the Ruffy. So I think that will work out pretty good. I'll just put a bet on here. Sorry, back this horse all sewn up late. On to the next, and look, this is a pretty good race. Hook comes out on top here. It resumes. Look, the horse really improved lengths last campaign under John Thompson, and it's trialled well. And we've got really strong form through very strong races last campaign. It resumes at 1300. I think that it's probably not a bad distance for it. It's a strong winner last prep at 1500 to a mile. That included a 1.6 length loss over a mile to He's Your Man, and it was only beaten 2.4 lengths by Hucklebuck, and near the cleaner in the Emirates. And that's pretty strong sort of form, and he really showed good improvement, and his speed ratings were quite strong. And even the raw speed figures, this horse is running 15 to 17 lengths above the average. I'm not sort of suggesting he'll be able to run to that level first up, but even if he's 5 lengths off his game, he's going to, be pretty hard to beat. So I think he looks really good value. Certainly Catkins always runs well, and that's, she's pretty hard to knock. But sort of $3 is short enough for her, as it is with Cosmic Endeavour. Lebaz resumes. I think he's a nice type of horse. He sort of hasn't done a lot wrong. He probably didn't get to the levels that they had planned for him going into his last prep. But then if you sort of look into the form, I guess he really didn't do too badly. He was a bit disappointing first up at Caulfield. He was blocked for a run up the straight. Well back favourite, and then 3 weeks into the Emirates and was only beaten 2.3 lengths, and it was a big run. He ran to 122 speed. So I really think that this horse could come out and run quite well. So they appear to be the value runners, and Tiger Tease is around the mark also. But they look the value runners, Hooked and Lebaz from Tiger Tease. On to the next race, which is race 8, and here we have Rubik and Mossfun down the bottom, the 3-year-olds, rated around $5 and $6. Look, I might have to knock Mossfun back a bit. I'm not sure she likes the dry tracks. I think she might be a mudlark, but just on her base talent, she comes out around $6. She's about $8 to $9 at the moment, so it's sort of not that far off. It's just whether we think that she's going to run the word best on a dry track, and that's the little query. Rubik has been well supported. He opened up $4.40, $4, $4.40, $3, and he's been pretty well supported. There's not a lot of value in him at the moment. There's a bit of value in Famous Seamus, and where else is the value? Villa Verde, there's a little bit of value. So that we're not dealing with a lot of value here at this stage. We just sort of have to see what happens there, but not a lot to go off there. And then into the last race, and Kuro certainly looks a really good chance. He's obviously got that strong form in the Coolmore, in behind the good 3-year-olds last year. He looks a really nice type of horse, and I think that despite the weight here, he's got Huey Bowman on board, and he's just going to go really well. This horse is just a really talented horse with a good super turn of foot, and it's very hard to see him not running very, very well. So I think that he'll certainly be the way to go there, and at this stage looks to be pretty good value. The other value runners at this stage in that race. Sorry guys, I'm just watching the race here. We got the winner home. Wasn't our best result, but it's a win. And the other value runners at this stage, we're looking at Fine Mist, Sultry Feeling, but they're sort of the other ones we've got under $10. So we're sort of opposed a few here, like Music Magnate. We sort of have long, could be a little bit wrong there, but it's sort of all about Kuro, I think. On the Flemington, look, in the first race, I think that this heavily looks a real good bet. It was a real dominant winner at Moonee Valley on debut, over 1,000 metres, and it's back to 1,000 metres here, and that's the key. It didn't quite run the trip last start, and it was pretty good, I thought, up until it had to sort of try and run the extra 100 metres. It ran them along. It sort of went out 9 lengths above the average with 400 to go, and then was unable to finish off. But they put the tongue tie on, so it may have choked down a little bit. Certainly that run will make sure it's very fit, and it did beat Rima on debut by a couple of lengths, and obviously Rima was just beaten in the Blue Diamond. So I think that it really does look the way to go. And just regarding the straight, it is trained at Flemington, and I dare say it's had a fair few goes down the straight. So Mark 220, it's about 350. It looks real good value for us at this stage, that owner, I think. So pretty keen to get involved there with that horse. On to race 2, and in race 2, the value at this stage appears to sit with See No Eagle. Written looks a good bit of value. Secret Toy Business looks value. So they're sort of the 3 value runners. It's a 1,200 metre race here down the straight. They've come from Missy Long stockings, but there's no way my figures suggest I would back that at $2.20 or $2.30. It it isn't going well enough for me to justify backing at that type of price. Sino Eagle, it's no star, but it goes very well first up. Won on debut at Ballina, then last campaign it won very well at Caulfield over 1,200 metres before being narrowly beaten by 1.4 lengths behind Tiger Tease and Mr. Chard. It's pretty solid form for this race, and I think that the way Moody's been going first up, this sort of fits the bill of a nice one that will run quite well. And Britain, as you can see, it doesn't have the exposed class figures, but certainly it's equal number one on the speed side of things. And it was a good run, good win resuming first up at Moonee Valley. It didn't really go too hard early or through the middle, and was just able to use its good zip and turn of foot. And I think the horse will be greatly improved by that run. So I think that Britain and Sino Eagle are the value, and Secret Toy Business is value. It's a bit of a roughie, but nonetheless it does look a decent price. On to the next race, race 3. And here I thought that Profit Share would run well. It's hard to sort of knock this horse. He really hasn't had a lot go right with some pilot decisions, but he's going very, very well. And despite having a shocking ride last start, he still had the 13th best last 400 of the day, and had a million things go wrong. So he looks to me to be the way to go here. He's been nibbled at sort of throughout the week. He's sort of in and out, but he's still sort of around 310, 320 at most agencies. Maastricht's around the price, and High World is another one that resumes. It looks to me to be the horse that probably doesn't have the exposed form that will be the good improver. And Turfane obviously just won a maiden at Kilmore last start. He had the best last 200 of the day, and I think that judging by his run prior to that, he was only beaten 0.4 of a length by Fast and Rocking, and that horse was really good in the Oakley Plate. So you can certainly make a case for Turfane around the $8 as well. Now on to the next race. We've got another small field here, so it sort of makes it a pretty even sort of race. Look, the value at this stage, it's gone for Akavuren. Our price was available when we alerted it earlier in the week, so I'm sure some members snapped that up. But at this stage, it's gone, and we probably won't see it again. If you want to get involved, we're probably looking at Aeronautical. Look, the horse goes very well. He's got a nice turn of foot. He's probably going to not be too far off them, and probably suited, by the slowest sort of speed. Tougher than ever for Wallers around the mark, and that's sort of where it starts and ends really. So there's a couple of horses here. Akavuren's into the 220. It's just a bit too short for me at this stage, but certainly he's a great horse. But I couldn't touch him at 220. So value here at this stage, Aeronautical definitely. Not sure he'll firm either. He may continue to get out, but I'm pretty keen he'll run well. On to the next race, which is the Stayers event. And Tuscan Fire, he's rated on top. Look, I think he's short enough at 320. I think he'll get out. I don't think there's any doubt there. Crafty Cruiser, he looks to be a horse that there's a couple of differing opinions on. He's a drifter at a couple of agencies, and if you sort of look at the tab, he's 11 in the 9s on the fix. So he goes quite well, and he's the sort of horse that can just beat you when you don't want to. So he's around the mark. You think so is too short. Only a Pleasure resumes. It's too short. Warnock looks value. He's a very hard horse to catch, but it's not often they get him out to this distance, as he has soundness issues. But every time he's run around this mark, he's gone quite well. And of course, he was unlucky to not win the Derby, and really there isn't a lot of depth in this race. Martin Vass going quite well, and Zadon's the one on the up who I thought ran quite well last start. He's on the 1 week back up. He's got the #1 speed rating. He's down on the minimum, and his class figure's not too different to a lot of the others, and he's probably the one with the upside. So probably at this stage, Crafty Cruiser, Warnack and Zadon look to be the value runners in that race, in race 5. On to race 6. And we have Star Fashion on top here, and she's a horse we've had a lot of success with in the past. And again, she resumes, and again, she's come up a really big price. As you can see, 120 on the speed. That's pretty difficult to achieve. But sometimes horses can do it, but it's very difficult to consistently do, and that's what the good horses do. They do it any time they get the opportunity, and she certainly did that first up last campaign when she beat Suavito, and looks to me to be in for another big show tomorrow. Certainly value runner at this stage, and the money's starting to come for that horse. And if you're not on already, it's probably a horse that you should start to think about taking a position in. Girl in Flight's the other one. It's got a good turn of foot, this horse, and it's probably not as exposed as some of the others, but it's never far away, and I think that it's going to run quite well. Also, Digger Pony, it's going to run quite well. Its value at this stage, and Scratchy Bottom's around the mark. Nadine West is around the mark. So we've got a handful here that are around the mark, and if we sort of highlight them, it's about 3.5 units out if we back those 5 runners. Look, Girl Bride, what do you do with it? It's come back shocking this campaign, and it really hasn't done much. Does it get up and knock us off? I'm not sure. Madam Gangster, it's got the strong speed figure also, but it's got to jump up in class here, and it may well do it. But I'm sort of happy to oppose it. And Scarlet Bellows is the other one that's been racing really well. It looks to just be a little bit too short. Onto the guineas, and in the guineas, look, we've got Kermadec around $5. He's the mid-3s. I'd expect this horse would probably get out a little bit. I don't think he should be $3.40. I don't think he's that much better than the others, but time will tell. Look, One Gina looks good value. I think we've got him $5.50, $6 around that mark. But mighty big class figure there, produced in the Cox Plate when he ran to 109. I think Suavito was given 108 or 109 or something like that last week for winning the Group 1. So, this guy's a 3-year-old. He's ran to 109, and he was just pretty good first up. So on speed, he was pretty hot, and he just kept going. So I can't see why he can't keep going again. And then we've got obviously the Adelaide horse, Alpine Eagle, who is around the mark, around $5 to $6 on the ratings. Some other value runners at this stage, we've got Min Seeger, who comes through the Alpine Eagle race at 13, it's 15. The filly, Fontaine Ruby, I've got at 10, it's sort of 12 to 15, so it looks a bit of value. And then we've got Stratum Star up the top, about $8. So he just sort of, I guess, was never far from Kermadec last campaign. They were always very close. So I think that's sort of what holds Kermadec back a little bit. He may have improved Kermadec, but the reality is, his speed figures are just, they're not greater than anyone else's. And he has got that strong class figure, but Stratum Star was never far from him last start. So we'll see what happens here. But it looks a really good race, a cracker. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get the winner, and no stress here taking on Kermadec. He's just a little bit too short. On to the next race, and that's race 8. Turquoise King. We've got around $10 here. He opened up over $10 and was one of the early alerts. He's sort of been snapped up a little bit. He's still $10 at 365. Look, he's a horse, as you can see. He's number one on the speed figures, and I haven't even given him a little bonus for that yet. So I could have him a little bit shorter quite comfortably. He goes really well first up, and he's just one of these Hawks horses that generally a lot of others don't get them to improve, but they sort of can get them to improve as they get a little bit older. I think he'll go quite well. Flamberge, really good run by Chautauqua last time out, 109.4 on class, strong figures. And then we're down the bottom, we've got the 3-year-olds, Nordic Empire, Chloe and Paris. They're going really well, and with their bonus there gets them right in. I think that they'll run quite well. So there's a few borderline at the moment. There's not a great deal of value for us at this stage in the race. Zamora is probably the best one, but a few that are very close. So we'll see what happens with the scratchings in the morning there. And then on to the lucky last at Flemington. And we've got top rated here, Harvey's True Heart. He comes through that good form with Index Linked and Fan and Brew. I think that he'll run really well, Harvey's True Heart. He looks to me to be ready to run well and win. I thought Happy as Hell was really good in the Kilmore Cup. This horse rates very strong. I wouldn't be surprised if he continued to firm. He's going to go quite well. And we've got Verdant, who he was very good first up, this horse. He does have to carry the top weight again, but geez, he really produced a strong run. So there's a big difference between him and Fan and Brew on the market, but we've sort of gone around the same mark. And Carlo Bugatti has its Australian debut. It's between $5 and $6 at most places, and it's probably going to drift a little bit, I think, but we'll see how it goes. But I think that Harvey's True Heart and certainly Happy as Hell is a horse I'd be looking to start to take a price in. So that concludes our look for tomorrow. Thanks for listening, and good luck with your bets.